scripture lesson today is taken from 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 8 through 17. One day, Elisha was passing through Shunammite, where a wealthy woman lived, who urged him to have a meal. So whenever he passed that way, he would stop there for a meal. She said to her husband, "Look, I am sure that this man who regularly passes our way is a holy man of God." He said, "What then may be done for her?" Gehazi answered, "Well, she has no son, and her husband is old." He said, "Call her." When he had called her, she stood at the door. He said, "At this season, in due time, you shall embrace a son." She replied, "No, my lord. O man of God, do not deceive your servant." The woman conceived and bore a son at that season, in due time, as Elisha had declared to her. Holy wisdom, holy word. Thanks be to God.
Well, as I magically come before you at the front,
Volume.
can you all hear me? Can you hear?
Can we hear?
Dr. Appler, can you say something?
Yes, can you hear us?
There we go.
Yes, we can
Okay,
hear
great.
you now.
Okay. Happy spring. It's good to be here, and thank you for Riddick's help today. I couldn't get through this without him, and for the technology that allows me to Zoom so I can be present to my students in class this afternoon in Bethlehem. So, as we celebrate the many accomplishments of women during the month of March, I thought of a very strong, proactive, and godly woman, the unnamed Shunammite in 2 Kings 4 and 8. Many turn to her story to celebrate Elisha's prophecy and power to cause the miraculous birth of her child, and then later the miraculous healing when her son dies. And that makes a lot of sense. However, I want to go in a different direction. I want to focus on a woman who provides a model of faith, hospitality, and pure gutsiness as she takes things into her own hands to support the mission of the prophet Elisha and to advocate on behalf of her family. Now, this woman is strong. In fact, the woman of Shunem is introduced as an Isha Gadola. Now, Isha often means woman, but the term Gadola is rendered by many different translations. The NRSV says wealthy, but it's also translated as great, respected, and important. We know she's married. We know very little about her husband, except that he works in the fields, and in this culture, he probably owns them. But her husband is described as being very old, which might be why she doesn't have a child at this time. Now, keep in mind, however, that her childlessness doesn't seem to get in the way of her being a great woman. She still has high status in the community, and being childless has no impact on her self-esteem and her ability to take things literally into her own hands, as we shall see. For example, when she realizes that the prophet Elisha often passes through Shunem on his journeys, the woman recognizes that Elisha is is a holy man of God. Now, the biblical text says the Shunammite woman urges him to come to share a meal. Yeah, that doesn't do justice to either the Hebrew or the woman. The Hebrew says that she seizes him, she grasps him, and takes hold of him. For those of you who like Hebrew, it's chazak in the Hifil form. She's basically forcing him into her dining room. And to make certain that she has access to this holy man of God when he comes through town, she builds a small room on the top of her house that she fully furnishes. And the biblical text gives us what's in there. There's a table, a chair, a bed, a lamp. This is generous hospitality and a safe space for Elisha to stay with no strings attached. And she doesn't ask her husband for permission. She just tells him what she wants to do, and then she does it. And this building project wasn't cheap. It was expensive. But as a woman of faith, this woman wants access to God's prophet, and she isn't afraid to make this happen. But the text suggests that she and her actions are a little bit intimidating to Elisha and his servant Gehazi. And I also started to wonder, where does she get her moxie? So when excavating in Tel Jezreel, several of us had the opportunity to visit Shunem, where this woman lives, her hometown. It's still pretty small. There's sheep and goats that are wandering around everywhere. There's gardens and vineyards and a wonderful space to be. Now, Shunem is 10 miles down the dirt road from Jezebel and Ahab's property at Jezreel. The close proximity of these two cities make me wonder, did this woman ever meet Jezebel? Or has she heard about Jezebel's strength and power? Is she influenced by her? Because both women are powerful, both know what they want and make it happen, and both of their narratives and kings reflect fear of those powerful and bold women. Fearing Jezebel, I think maybe makes sense. We'll talk about her another time. But in 2 Kings 4, Elisha seems intimidated by the Shunammite woman in spite of the fact that he knows that she's working on his behalf. She's clearly committed to the God of Israel, and she's clearly committed to providing for him. But there are hints of fear throughout the text, like, first of all, I find it really fascinating that Elisha doesn't call the Shunammite woman by name. He refers to her pretty much all the time as the Shunammite woman. Now, surely he must ask her name during the many times he sits down and eats at her dinner table with her husband. Is leaving out her name a way to quell her power? And in addition, he rarely communicates directly to her. Take a look in the text. He uses his servant Gehazi to talk to her back and forth, even though they're in the same house. Perhaps he's afraid of being grabbed again, and it's going to happen. I got to give you a heads up. It's going to happen. But still, Elisha appreciates that this woman has gone out of her way to offer hospitality in a safe space. Because remember, Jezebel isn't real fond of the prophets of God. And so he, being so close to Jezebel's territory, probably is grateful for the respite in her house. Now, with Gehazi's advice, Elisha wants to offer the woman of Shunem some remuneration. He offers her access to the highest of power. I mean, who wouldn't want to meet the commander of the army or meet the king? I mean, I know I want to meet some people in power because I have a few words to say to them. But when she offers, she says, I live among my people, which means I'm good. I can take care of myself. She is a strong and capable woman. Now, Elisha is flummoxed. He returns to Gehazi for more advice. Okay, always a bad idea. See 2 Kings 5. Gehazi lets him know that she is childless. And I have to ask, how does Elisha not know that she doesn't have a child? How can he not know this? He's in her house. But this gives Elisha a perfect idea. Let's not ask this woman what she wants. Let's give her something we think she should want, a child, because of course she wants a child. Now, when she hears this news, the woman is rattled. She says, "No, my Lord, O man of God, do not deceive your servant." Now, some interpreters take this to mean she's full of joy because she hasn't had a child. And this news seems impossible, especially if her husband is impotent. And she always wanted a child. And so this is great news for her. And then there's others like me who are less convinced of her joy and suggest that she might be a little bit set off balance by not being asked about the pregnancy and her choices for her family. See, she's doing just fine as she is. Remember, with or without a child, she is Isha Gadola, a respected, wealthy, great, important woman. Intimidated by this woman, maybe Elisha and Gehazi think, ooh, this baby might divert her from grabbing profits, building roofs, and using her energy instead on raising a child. Will she be a little less scary if she's put back in her place as mom? Although moms are pretty cool, so it's okay. So the Shunammite woman conceives a child. Okay, a little aside. Wow. Have some people had some interesting questions and responses to the paternity of this child, since God isn't specifically mentioned here? I'll let you all read more on that on your own. She gives birth. Now, whether or not she wants this child, we know that she accepts this gift. She loves this child. She nurtures this child. And when this child dies unexpectedly in the fields, when he's with his father, she is devastated and gets to work. She gets to work to do something. She's sad, but she's not willing to give up. She knows that Elisha is the holy man of God and that he can make her child come alive again. And she's going to make sure he comes down from Mount Carmel where he's hanging out and fix it, even if it angers Elisha. This mother, this great woman, doesn't depend on her husband for help. She takes her now deceased child, places him up in Elisha's upper room with the door closed. She tells no one that the child is dead, even her husband and Gehazi. But she has faith in Elisha. She has faith in her God. And she knows in her heart that all will be fine with Elisha's help. So she saddles up her donkey. She hightails it 15 miles that it takes to get to Mount Carmel. And by the way, that is uphill. This woman is determined. This is very determined for her. Elisha sees her coming. Does he come running down to say, what can I do? What can I do? No, he doesn't. He has no idea that the child is dead because God doesn't tell him, we hear from the text. Instead of checking on the Shunammite woman himself, who has done so much to support him, he opts to put the situation into Gehazi's hands. She's not having it. Good choice. Seriously. See 2 Kings chapter 5. Okay. This is her beloved child, and she wants the man of God, not Gehazi. The text says that this unnamed Shunammite woman finds Elisha and she seizes, she grabs on his feet. She gets his attention. While she continues to hold on to Elisha's feet, Gehazi attempts to push her away, which might be painful. But Elisha says no. And still holding on to Elisha, she rips into him. Did I ask you for a son? Did I not say, do not mislead me? Now she wants him to do something. But instead, Elisha sends Gehazi with his staff to heal the child. What, is Elisha too busy? Is he afraid that he can't work the miracle because he doesn't know about his power? He doesn't think he has it? But again, the Shunammite is having nothing of this. Still holding on to Elisha's feet, she swears an oath. As the Lord lives, as you yourself lives, I will not leave without you. I imagine that Elisha feels like, I gotta do this because otherwise I'm not gonna get to get out of her grasp, let's put it that way. This woman has the faith that this prophet of God has the power to make her child whole again, and she will do nothing less than to get Elisha into the upper chamber to heal him. And by doing so, it's good for Elisha. His healing miracles become the talk of the town, and he works many more miracles after this. Yara Amit suggests that Elisha's encounters with the Shunammite woman emphasize Elisha's flaws and serves as a development story for him and makes him a stronger prophet. And so he should be grateful to this woman's persistence and gutsiness. Nevertheless, he still acts as if he's afraid of this powerful, great woman. Now, y'all probably know this. Usually after a biblical miracle story, it's all wrapped up. That's the end of it. We hear about it, and then we move on. And the Shunammite woman does kind of disappear from the narrative, but she might be lurking in the background, still intimidating Elisha. I mean, does he still come to her house? Does he still go up in the upper room? Is she still telling him what to do? And she pops up again in 2 Kings chapter 8, 1-4. But this time, Elisha tells the woman, take your household, all of them. There's going to be a famine. Go down to some other place because you can't handle it here. She trusts him. She moves to Philistia, where her family dwells for 7 years. When they return to Shunem after those 7 years, guess what? She finds that her house has been confiscated. So what does a strong and gutsy woman do? She marches straight to the king to appeal. She doesn't ask for Elisha's introduction. She has no fear. She either doesn't care about possible consequences if approaching the king without permission leads to bad consequences, or maybe she assumes that even she as a woman can go directly to the king and he'll see her. And he does. The king restores her property when he hears Gehazi, who just happens to be there. He recounts the miraculous story of Elisha raising her child from the dead. And here's the child. But I have to ask, was there really a famine? Or does Elisha want a little respite and send this woman away for a while because she's scary? This is a possibility. Because you see, when the king restores her property, guess what? He also restores 7 years of revenue that the land earned while she was away during a famine. Do you get revenues during a famine? I don't know, but I'm assuming there's a little bit of a disconnect here. Plus, the king might also be intimidated by her gutsiness. When he sends her to reclaim the property, he sends along a eunuch. Men assigned to accompany strong women like the Shunammite woman and Jezebel are often eunuchs. It's safer that way. Now, we remember the Shunammite woman's story today because she reminds us to trust in God and to act boldly for what is right, even if it intimidates those in power who want us to stay in our place. Our political systems, our homes, and even our churches still struggle with women who are powerful or anyone who challenges or acts in the way that the systems of power don't believe in or affirm. Just look at how women candidates, especially those running for president and vice president, are demeaned or threatened or for being strong or being in the wrong place. While women have made strides in church and government, women are still disproportionately underrepresented. Further, even well-meaning people like Elisha are at times intimidated by them and make assumptions about what women should want without even asking for their input. But the Shunammite woman pushes back. Empowered by her faith, she tries to do what is in the best interest of her family and community. She is unapologetically bold. Sometimes taking bold action is necessary to build upper rooms that provide hospitality, nurturing, and a safe space from forces that are out to harm those more vulnerable. Sometimes grabbing feet of religious leaders, politicians, or others with power to try to make them do the right thing can enact positive change. Anna Maria Archila grabbed Senator Jeff Flake by his feet when she confronted him in an elevator during the Senate confirmation hearings for the Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh, who was accused of sexual assault by Dr. Christine Blasey Ford. Archila encounters Flake in the elevator and forces him and all of us, because it was televised, to hear her story of abuse and concern about the confirmation. Senator Flake still votes to send the nomination forward, but he also supports a delay for the FBI investigation in case of possible abuse. While the final result of the confirmation didn't change, Archila's bold actions and strong voice for justice for the abuse is not in vain. She and the Shunammite woman reminds us we have to try, even if we have to be strong when others don't want us to be. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's words resonate with those who choose to act in spite of societal constraints. She says, quote, "They'll tell you you're too loud, that you need to wait your turn and ask the right for people for permission. Do it anyway," unquote. Yep, that's the Shunammite woman. We may not know the Shunammite's name, but she will always be remembered for her faith in God and her bold and gutsy acts to make good things happen. She truly is an Isha Gadola. Let us honor her by being bold and gutsy for God. Amen.